Hey guys, and welcome back to another live trading wrap up for the 10th of February, or April, sorry, 2020. Everything's starting to blend together, being kind of stuck at home for this long, but we will endure. So, another interesting week in the markets as things are going a little bit crazier. We continue to bounce up here, and I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how essentially, this is it. The low is in. I will caution people of that. There's still a lot of reasons to be bearish here. The first one being that we're just coming into this area of resistance here that we had before. We still have this horizontal resistance here above and some more kind of areas here as well. So although we're bouncing and we're undeniably strong, will the bounce look like this one we saw recently or even this one before that? Again, I don't know. It's not my job to predict these things. It's my job to react to them. But what I am going to say is that this time with this little bounce, there's a lot more of a underpinning economically that makes sense to be a little bit more worried. The other thing here is, you guys notice I've been using anchored VWAP a little bit more after learning that from Brian Shannon, having it in the system. We finally got over the anchored VWAP from this recent high. So that means that, at least for now, for a little bit, anybody who bought during this sell-off is now finally in a profit. The average person that bought during the sell-off. So not too far above. You guys know how much I focus on these indecision candles that we're seeing right here. So I think Monday's opening is going to be telling. But, with all of the resistance above, we could bounce to 300, which is the 200-day moving average, and still be weak, right? It's when you get a move like this, you're not getting any of that higher high, higher low synopsis yet. You're just getting, we sold off and we bounced. So we either need to put in a higher low somewhere through here to push higher, or this is just a lower high from this high and we're going to continue lower. To be honest, I've got a kind of theory in my head that the market tries to frustrate or hurt the most amount of people, shake out the most amount of people, the people who are going into trading without any kind of plan. And to do that, essentially, the easiest way to do that would just be to chop around here for an extended period of time. So here we are, and again, if you're new to exactly what we do here, this is just kind of a weekend wrap-up of my thoughts of the market. But at the same time, I've been running this trading strategy. It's not my only trading strategy. You can go on the channel and see all the other ones. But this is an automated system in which I pick, generally speaking, in normal markets, 4 longs, 4 shorts that I've back-tested. And I've come up with some sort of a back-tested theory behind. For example, within trade ideas, you can take any kind of ideas that you have and you can run a back test on them. We'll just run that now. And you can say certain things like, okay, I want to buy this stock, but only if XYZ occurs, right? So I want to create a back tested system, a theory, and then from there I want to scan those stocks and I want to say, of the ones that came through this kind of back-tested algorithm and I know has a, say, 55-60% chance of being higher, which ones do I think have the best potential based off of my kind of trading eye that hopefully you guys are developing. This isn't a good one. This was obviously supposed to be a short, but this is just the way that you can backtest these out. So then I take a backtest that is working and I say, okay, let me scan those and try to figure out which ones work best. We let the auto trader within Trade Ideas trade them for us and then close them at the end of the week, go into that week in cash and repeat. And I created this kind of trading style a long time ago for a mentoring client that I have. Again, I do mentor traders. There'll be email below if you're interested in that. In which, someone wanted a kind of hands-off way to get his feet wet and to learn trading. So after showing this to him and seeing his success, I thought I would add it to my repertoire of things that I already trade anyway. So then what we do is each week we come on and I tell you which of the symbols triggered and show you where and what the profit was or loss for each week. And we chart that up as well. And then I show you what I'm watching for next week as well. Again, none of it's recommendations. There's a lot of different things that happen in the back end to figure whether or not they trigger or not, but just a way that you guys can, I guess, follow along with kind of what I'm doing. So we had 3 triggers this week and one that made up the bulk of our profit. So we made $8 or so a share. And what I've been doing is I've been keeping the spreadsheet. Let me just drag this in. And this just shows the kind of P&L and the equity based off whether you're trading 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 shares. Again, I will say I am shocked that we've only had one small losing week this year. It will not continue like this. And I just want to make that clear that it's not the way this is going to happen. You know, there will be a time at some point in which something breaks, you know, that there will be losing periods. Trading is by its nature a bit random. So the fact that we're on such a win streak, I'm just chalking up to just random luck. And then when we're on a losing streak, I'm going to chalk that up to the same and just continue the trading plan as always. But again, this is the results, but it's, I don't know, maybe I'm cynical, but I just don't trust when things go this well as a trader. And I think that's important because what a lot of people will do is they would see results like that and say, okay, this system's untouchable. Let me load it up with a whole lot of buying power and a whole lot of risk. And then that would inevitably be the moment that you're about to occur a losing streak. So the 3 trades that we got, we bought MGPI, and what we were looking at here was kind of a, call it a rounding bottom or an ascending trend or ascending triangle, but we were looking at a little breakout here and continuation. We got that. It actually gapped above our price, and I was going to be kind of sad that I missed it, but it sold off all Monday and got us in, and then continued a little bit higher. HMSY, same kind of a setup. We were looking for it to get up into the gap. It chopped around most of the week, but then Friday made a nice move for us. And then we shorted Blue Apron, APRN, and we lost 11 cents per share on that. It just triggered on like Friday afternoon or Thursday afternoon, shortened week, and then nothing really happened. So the first one that we're adding back in is, again, Blue Apron. I think this may be the 3rd week I've had this in here, but essentially this comes from an algorithm that just shows that when stocks make these insane moves and then crack this hard down, that generally speaking over the next bit, they'll start to grind lower into the gap, into the area. They'll give a little bit back. Again, that's just the theory behind it. From a technical point of view, it just looks like this last bounce was very, very weak, and we see a lot of dojis and indecision candles in this area. So I think if this kind of $11 to $10 area gives way, there could be just some kind of panic profit taking. Even if it comes down to 8 or 9, it's still up incredibly since this whole thing started. The other short is VMC, and this is just kind of a little bit of a look of the market, but we've had this big long run, this a rising wedge, and rising wedge patterns have a pretty statistically good chance to follow off. And then you can see this giant inverted hammer that we had here on Friday. So I think if this just continues down, even if we go in to test this $100 or so area, then that'd be a great trade. And from the long side, first KPTI. And KPTI basically had this big gap that happened earlier from here to here. And then it's come into the gap, closed it pretty much perfectly, bounced, and then sold off a little bit, potentially making this higher low from here and holding this area of support from the bounce. And then we have this doji here on Friday. So I think a break of this doji and we could potentially take another run at highs here. And last but not least, IIPR. And this is the same kind of thing. If you zoom out of this break of support here, it only spent about 4 or 5 days under support before it rallied pretty hard. It came back to test that support, and it looks like, at least for now, it's holding. So a break of here, I think we could take a push to the 200-day moving average, or maybe a little bit higher there. So that's what I'm looking at for equities. Again, you guys like when I look at Bitcoin as well. I do trade, let me refresh this. I do trade a bit of this as just an additional market to trade. I just got triggered in last night, a short position. So I was watching this kind of slow grind up, and just like we talked about on VMC there, it has this kind of rising wedge pattern. And rising wedges are pretty good pattern to play in the direction of the trend, because your risk is so tiny versus your potential reward. You know, you could, in theory, so I'm in from about this area, and my risk would be these new highs, right? So even if it just gets down to this area, you can see that's a 3-to-1 risk reward ratio. And I'm not one that I think that there's any, that I'm going to be right all of the time. Again, you can see this week I was only right 66% of the time. I would imagine that when we average this strategy out through the entire year, I'm going to be right about 50% of the time. So I really focus on risk reward. So even if we got down to where these wicks started, now you're talking a 4-to-1 risk reward. So as long as I'm right 25% of the time on these plays, I'll break even. If I can be right any more than that, it will be profitable. And that's kind of where my focus is here. So that's my current thinking on these coins. Just trying to look for what is the best risk reward plays that I can hopefully multiply out again and again. With crypto, this thing could obviously really get going if we kind of break these lows. Just looking at a little bit of a longer term chart, let's zoom out to a weekly. For now, all of this has been a bounce in a bear market, right? Until we're back up in this area, everything you've seen here is a bounce in a bear market, in my opinion. We broke down this area of support, we came back up and tested it, and are so far having a rough time. So is Bitcoin done or whatever from here? I don't know, and I don't really care, right? I look to trade these things based off these risk reward profiles, and then if I'm right, I'm right, and if I'm not, then I know at least over the long run there'll be profits to be had there. So that is what I'm watching for this week, guys. Again, link is in the description for trade ideas here, where I do these back tests, where I run these systems. I have this all auto traded for me. So basically I'm done with this system for the week. It will just take care of itself from there. If you're interested in that, during this Easter weekend, we're having a 25% off sale. I will link that code right under the video, so just scroll down, along with a link to another series that I'm running, where I'm basically teaching my fiance, who is just learning to trade, because we're locked in a house together now for the foreseeable future. And it's kind of interesting to go along with her journey and what she's learning to do as someone who really hasn't been in this game before. So if you're new, or if you're just looking for like a refresher of the basics, you can check that out on the channel here as well. So that is it for today, guys, and trade safe out there.